Hello guys, welcome to another tutorial brought to you by Programium. This is fifth video for our Java playlist, and in this video we will be talking about comments, variables, and how a computer allocates memory and uses these variables, and of course what are the benefits of these variables. So without any further delay, let's get started. As you can see, I have opened IntelliJ IDE here. So now we will be talking about variables. So what are variables? Let me write here the theory of variables. Before that, I would like to tell you, imagine you are shifting your house from one location to another location. And of course, you have to shift your house utilities also. Also imagine there are lot of household stuff or house utilities spread in every corner of your house. So there could be two procedures to shift these utilities to other location. One possibility is that you pick up these utilities and start shifting to other location, and the other utility is that you pick up a box, and after picking that box you put every utility and put that utilities in that box and then shift this box to other location. So guys, what could be the easiest possibility here? And I think putting all utilities in a box and then shifting that box would be very easier for you. So this is the concept of variables. Let me write it here. Guys, here I will be also talking about comments. So what are actually variables? Uh, Variables are containers. Let me put a backslash here and two asterisks and again a backslash. Now I'm gonna press enter here and write stuffs here. So what are variables? Variables are actually containers where computer puts binary values. Okay, you can say that variables are also containers. So this concept would get even better when we create our variables, and I will modify this definition again, but just for a short while, think variables are containers. Okay, what are the major parts? Let me again write a comment here. Major parts of a variable. So there are three parts of a variable. Let me write them here. Number one part is data type of variable. Number two is name of variable. You can also say identifier. I hope so. Yes. And the third one is the value of the variable. Okay, now you know what is a variable. Variable is a container. And what are the major parts of a variable? There are three parts. One is the data type of the variable. I am talking about variables in Java. So there are three parts of a variable. Major parts, one is data type, other is the name of the variable, and third is the value of the variable. So let me just let me just define a variable here. First is the data type. Now what are the data types? Let me again use comments here. So now we talked about what are variables, what are the major parts of a variable in Java, and what are most common, let me write it here, most common variables in Java. Okay, oh yes, now fine. There are variables. One is, put a space here, integer, and we denote integer by int. Let me copy here and paste it here. So second and second most important is floating point numbers, or you can say that these are decimals. So we denote them with float. Third one is long, and they are actually big integers, and they are denoted by long. Fourth one is double, and they are big decimal numbers, and they are denoted by double. Fifth one is, sorry, characters, and they are denoted by char. Sixth one is strings or messages, and they are denoted by string. Seventh one is booleans, or you can say that true or false, and they are denoted by boolean. Okay, there are, okay, now they we what we actually covered here, what are variables, what are the parts of a variable in Java, and what are most common variables in Java. So now we will be making a variable in this program. So how to declare a variable in Java? So as I talked before, these are major parts, and we have to make a variable by keeping in mind the order of these three parts. First is the data type, second is the name of the variable or identifier, and third is the value. So what should we have written, and what are the data types most common? Let me type here data type of variables in Java. Okay, so we want an integer type here, so write here data type. Second is the name of the data type. I would like here an integer. Okay, an integer. Let me just put a semicolon here, and we have defined a variable by the name of an integer. This is the data type, this is the identifier or name of the variable. Third one, and that is assigning a value to this variable. So how can we do that? There are two methods. Let me write here, there are two methods of assigning a value to a variable. So first one method is putting a equal sign here and giving here this variable a value. So this process is known as, let me use a comment here, this process is also known as direct initialization. Okay, and the second process is that, again I am using an integer here, int second integer is equals to 4000. And now uh, this is also direct initialization. This is the first method of initializing a variable, and the second method, sorry, is first declare a variable, and after that just use that variable, put an equal sign, and use whatever value you want to put here. Okay, so this is the first method of assigning a variable or initialization of a variable, and the second is this. And you can simply say that assigning a variable. Okay, so you can see that there are three parts: data type, I'm repeating it again, data type, variable name or identifier, and third one is the value of the variable. So you can say that this value, this an integer, is a container that is storing this value, that is 2000 right here, and this is also a container and it is storing a value of 4000. So what let me tell you what are the differences between these variables and their data types. So what I am going to do here, I will be initializing 7 more variables, sorry 6 more variables, because we have covered integer here and the remaining will be covering here. So let me tell you what I am going to initialize or define next. Long integer. Remember there are relations in between these variables. Integer and long has a relation, floating point numbers and double has a relation, and characters and strings have relations. So I will be uh, initializing them side by side. What if we want to increase the capacity of this integer variable? So it is actually storing here 4000. Let me put two pairs of zeros here. So these are actually four numbers: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. Remember, when you put the 10th number, it showed an error and is showing integer number too large. So there are actually limit of an integer, and that you can only store an integer in this variable that is only 9 numbers long. So let me remove the 10th number from here, and you would see that the error had gone right now. But what if you need to store 10 letter or 10 number integer in a variable? So we got a long here, so we put a long and we call it big number. So what can we store now here? Remember not to forget the semicolon at the end of every line. So I'm putting here 5000000. So these are 7 characters, 7 numbers, 8 9 and 10th. You can say, what's the difference between an integer and a long? They are actually storing similar numbers. So to initialize or give value to a long variable, first use that value, and after that use capital L. to show that, to show to compiler that this is a long number and this is an ordinary integer. So let me put a space here and use a comment so that you can always understand what does this integer mean, or what are the initialization methods, or how to initialize or define variables. So this is initialization of a long integer. Okay, so these are, now we have covered integer and longs. So what's next? Floats. Let me again put some spaces and define a variable float. Just type float as a data type, and then what should be we putting here? We should be putting an identifier or no, or name of the variable. What is the name of the variable? We can say that uh, first float. We have declared a variable by the name of first float whose data type is float. So what to do now? We have to assign it a value here. Let me put a value like 100.10. So you can ask a question, what have you done here? You said that in floats you can store decimal numbers, but when you put a decimal numbers it is saying an error. And what is the error? Required type float and provided double. So to resolve this error we have to use small f here, and remember the error had gone. Okay, you can also use an integer here, no problem, but when we will be printing this number it would be written as, let me print it first. So I'm removing this f from here and putting here first float. Let me run it by, as I told before, you can right click or click here run main. You can press Ctrl Shift plus F10, or you can press Shift F10. So I am pressing Shift F10, and now you can see that we got 100.0, but we have stored here 100. Where that dot 0 come from? Actually that converting this value to an decimal number, to a decimal number. So again I am going to put here 20 f and pressing Shift F10. Now you would see 100.2. Yes, you can say that 100.2. But where is that 0? Actually this is neglecting 0 at the last place and a rounding of this number. But what if I put 2 here? So I would be pressing, running it again, and you would see 100.22. Yes. So this is the difference between variable, float and integer. Okay, now you have an understanding of what's the difference between float, long, and integer, and how to use floats. So next we will be jumping to the similar data type to float, that is double. So I'm removing this space from here and putting an extra space here. Let me again tell you, okay, let me again tell you what, first putting a comment here and writing this is a float or decimal number. So why we use double? Exactly the same as we use an integer and long. Okay, now we have an understanding of how to declare floats. So next is double. Double, I would say first double is equals to, you can simply put numbers here, and it is a double variable, and this is a double variable, or you can put in brackets decimal number. Big decimal number. So what's left? Characters and strings. Let me put here. Let me tell you how to declare characters. You can say char and first character, and to initialize or give value to this character variable, you have to use single quotation mark and put here one alphabet. But if you try to put some more alphabets, then it will give you an error. So to keep things simple, we will only use one character for this character variable. And let me put it here. This is a variable. What type of variable? Character variable. Now we left string here. Let me put string, and we would say it first string, but it is showing an error here. And what is that error? It is saying cannot resolve symbol string. How is that possible? Oh, we forget to capitalize the S of this string. Always remember there are some variables or keywords in Java that are that starts from capital letters. I am again initializing this. So to do that, I'm using capital S and then putting string here and first string. To assign value to this variable, let me put a equal sign. For this, we have to use double quotation mark and then a semicolon. So this is a string variable. Okay, I'm not putting comment here because this string is actually telling the user that I am a string variable. Seventh and the last variable in our list is Booleans. And let me type here first bool is equals to, there could be only two possibilities for booleans, either true or either false. I'm using false here. Okay, but one more thing here, boolean with small b. Now these are variables, and how to declare them, how to assign them value. Now we will want to print these variables. For that, I am again using south, and if you hover here, and here you can see that it accepts boolean, characters, integers, long, floats, double, strings, and characters array. Let me in our previous videos we directly put some strings here. This is a message, but we are not going to do the same here. We want to print these variables. So for that, let me put here variable numbers. So first we use what was our integer, and an integer. Okay, an integer. Let me just control D and duplicate it. And the second is second integer. Let me again control D, and the first float, control D. Let's see what's next. First float, first double, but where is the long character? Big number. Okay, Let me put it here, south, big number, float, double, and again south, and first character, control D, first, no, where is this string? Actually, I misspelled them, first string. Now I am using here first string, and what's the last is again south and first bool. Let me just run it. You can see that we got here 200 2000 and a long number. This is also an integer, float, double, character, string, and the boolean. But aside these values, I'm also printing, I'm going to print something. We need to modify our program. Let me again tell you a method of printing lot more things here. Put double quotation marks if you want to print some message as it is. Okay, and what should be the message? This is an integer, and I am putting here plus sign to concatenate these things. Okay, let me just copy it, paste it here, and I am using also this is also an integer, big number. This is a long, this is a float, this is a double, this is a character, this is a string, and this is a boolean. Let me again run it, and you can say that wow, now you have clear understanding of what were these values. Now you can see that uh, these were printing stuffs on console, and of course we have done all these things according to the syntax of Java. There are no errors, but what are the role of these lines we put here? So as I told before, these are comments, and these are for the ease of the programmers, and of course users when they view documentation. Actually documentation helps a lot. So being a programmer, we use such techniques so that if we started to work on this project we are working right now on some later time period, like for example after 3 months, we will forget everything, each and everything, even if we write that project by ourselves. So to memorize this project or functions, what does this function do and what should be the output and input, we actually write comments so that we can have an understanding of what could be modified or what could be the outcome, etc. So these comments are actually ignored by the IDE and are not compiled. So whatever, but one more thing, there is a syntax of programmer comments. There are two methods of writing comments here. One is using double slashes, and I am writing here the method of writing comments. Okay, so these are known as single line comments. Let me you can see that there are no errors here, but what if I want to use uh, I want to comment a lot of lines at once? So what have to do, I am again putting an enter here and writing here this is a single line comment. But these are IntelliJ or IDE is showing an error here because we forgot to use double slashes here. So let me tell you a shortcut here. If you want to comment a line, just go to that line and click anywhere on that line and press control backslash, and that will convert that line to a comment. So these two lines are single line comments. You can see that here. If we are in this line, no error here, but if we go to another line, it shows an error. So these are single line comments. And what if you want to comment double or multiple lines? So you can see that here these are multi-line comments. And what is the actual methodology of doing that? You put a backslash here, uh, use two asterisks, and again putting a backslash here, and write whatever you want here in these lines. So I am putting here, writing here, these are multiple multi line comments. Okay. Now actually this was the topic I would have to tell you guys in our first video when we write our first Hello World program. So but I forgot. Now it was the time to tell you this concept. So we in this video we cover comments, multi-line comments, what are variables, and major parts of a variable, most common data types of variables, how to declare, initialize variables, and to print them on console. Actually, one more thing I would like to tell you about, guys, and these are how much memory or RAM variables uses. So remember, sometimes when you use multi-line commands, you hit enter and the compiler don't put an asterisk, so no problem, you put it manually. And let me copy this and paste it here. Okay, now an integer uses 4 bytes of memory. Let me copy it here and paste it here. Float also uses 4 bytes of memory. Long uses 8 bytes of memory. Double also uses 8 bytes of memory. Characters uses 2 bytes of memory. And booleans uses 1 bytes of memory because they actually store true or false. Strings are not, let me tell you here, not exact memory. So what does this mean? This means actually string is a collection of characters. Let us assume what should be the memory of a string who contains 3 variables, word which is ARER. So how many characters are here? 1, 2, and the third one E. So this string is a collection of 3 characters. And how much a character uses memory? 2 bytes of memory. So 2 multiplied by 3, how much? 6 bytes of memory. Depending upon the how much characters a string contain, it calculates its memory. So this was the memory status of our variables. Now major parts, common parts. So now coming back to these containers, we need to modify our definition of variables. So again coming back to the topic, variables are actually container where computer puts binary values. But we are putting here these values like 2000. Let me tell you one more thing here. This is an integer stores like here 2000, but computer understands binary language. So what are the benefits of variables? Actually, this value is converted to binary. Let me write it here, binary values. Every variable, you can say value, is converted to binary, and then that binary value is used further. So what happens here? Computer picks up bytes. Let me procedure. Let me tell you a rough procedure here. Actually, computer picks bytes from memory and allocates to that variable and stores value in it for further use. So actually this was the process of all these variables, and this is a theory that will help you in your assignment or quizzes or some other kind of stuff. Guys, I will be sharing this source code with you, and you can download it from the link in the description below. So enough for this video. We will be meeting in our next video. Until then, stay tuned and don't forget to like our videos and subscribe our channel and share with your friends. Goodbye.